today's Sandy Speaks is going to focus on my white people. What I need you to understand is that being black in America is very, very hard.
Sandy had been arrested.
I will light you up. Get out!
How do you go from failure to signal a lane change to dead in jail by alleged suicide?
I believe she let them know, I'll see you guys in court, and I believe they silenced her.
Alles geprüft. It was quite a normal day at my office, and I heard from an informant that an accident had happened, and I had to call the spokesman of the Volkswagen factory. The spokesman said that the accident happened, but then he paused for a moment. So I think he didn't want to say much more.
Dieses Roboterbedienpult dient zur Steuerung und Programmierung des Roboters. Man programmiert nicht jeden Roboter gleich, jeder Roboter ist anders. Es hat eine Touchscreen-Oberfläche, die Touchscreen-Oberfläche kennt man von Handys und einen roten Knopf zum Nothalt der Anlage, falls irgendwas passiert.
The young worker installed a robot cage, and he told his colleague to start the robot. The robot took the man and pressed him against a metal wall, so his chest was crushed.
Im Zuge dieser Arbeiten hat sich der 21 Jahre alte Mann halt in einen Bereich begeben, wo der Roboter selbstständig arbeitet. Und abschließend geklärt ist der Ablauf noch nicht. Es stellte sich dann so dar, dass der andere Mitarbeiter irgendwann in diesen Raum geschaut hat und hat gesehen, dass sein Kollege eingeklemmt an diesem Tisch stand, zwischen Roboterarm und Tisch. Im deutschen Strafrecht kann man immer nur natürliche Personen, also Menschen, zur Verantwortung ziehen. Ein Roboter selbst kann nicht jemand sein, den man strafrechtlich verfolgt. Die Frage nach einer Schuldfähigkeit eines Roboters stellt sich nicht.
The dead man's identity was never made public. The investigation remained open for years. Production continued.
Mein Name ist Ersen Ehren und ich bin Trainer im Trainingszentrum. Ich habe ein Metronom mitgebracht.
Automation of labor made humans more robotic.
Mit diesem Arbeitsutensil zeigen wir den Mitarbeitern, dass sie gleichmäßig arbeiten können, indem sie sich an den Takt halten. Und wir haben tatsächlich einen großen Beitrag dazu geleistet, unsere Mitarbeiter qualitativ wirklich nach vorne zu bringen.
Alles so automatisiert jetzt und weiter entwickelt sich diese Vorrichtung. Stand der Roboter hat die 3 Menschen, kann man sagen, in 3 Schichten beschäftigt gewesen.
Weil das schon vor Jahren, das war ja schon in den 90ern, fing das schon an mit der Roboter-Automatisierung sozusagen.
Es ist halt schneller geworden, auf jeden Fall.
Früher hat man ja per Hand eingepackt, ne? Damals, wo die Roboter nicht da waren.
Schon, ja, okay. Das ist richtig, ja. Die nehmen ja viel Arbeit weg und
es wird ja alles automatisiert jetzt momentan. Ja.
Aber hier in VW geht's noch. Also es gibt woanders, also wo die nur mit Roboter arbeiten.
A robot is a machine that operates automatically with human-like skill. The term derives from the Czech words for worker and slave.
Hey, Ellie.
Well, we are engineers and we are really not emotional guys. But sometimes Annie does something funny and that of course invokes some amusement, especially when Annie happens to press one of their emergency stop buttons by herself and is then incapacitated. We have some memories of that happening in situations, and we have quite a laugh. Okay.
We became better at learning by example. You could simply show us how to do something.
Auf nochmal. When you are an engineer in the field of automation, you may face problems with workers. Sometimes they get angry at you just by seeing you somewhere and shout at you, "You are taking my job away." What? I'm not here to take away your job. But yeah, sometimes you get perceived that way. But I think in the field of human-robot collaboration, where we actually are working at the moment mostly, is human-robot collaboration is a thing where we don't want to replace a worker. We want to support workers, and we want to,
In order to work alongside you, we needed to know which lines we could not cross.
Stop. Stop.
I am Simon Borgen. We are with Dr. Isaac Asimov, a biochemist who may be the most widely read of all science fiction writers.
In 1942, Isaac Asimov created a set of guidelines to protect human society.
The first law was that a robot couldn't hurt a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. The second law was that a robot had to obey orders given it by human beings, provided that didn't conflict with the first law.
Scientists say that when robots are built, that they may be built according to these laws, and also that almost all science fiction writers have adopted them as well in their story.
It's not just a statement from a science fiction novel. My dissertation's name was actually Towards Safe Robots Approaching Asimov's First Law. How can we make robots really fundamentally safe according to Isaac Asimov's first law? There was this accident where a human worker got crushed by an industrial robot. I was immediately thinking that the robot is an industrial, classical robot, not able to sense contact, not able to interact. Is this a robot that we kind of want to collaborate with? No, it's not. It's inherently forbidden. We put them behind cages. We don't want to interact with them. We put them behind cages because they are dangerous, because they are inherently unsafe. More than 10 years ago, I did the first experiments in really understanding what does it mean if a robot hits a human. I put myself as the first guinea pig. I didn't want to go through all the legal authorities, I just wanted to know it. And that night, I decided at 6 p.m., when everybody's gone, I'm gonna do these experiments. And I took one of the students to activate the camera, and then I just did it. A robot needs to understand what does it mean to be safe? What is it that potentially could harm a human being, and therefore prevent that. So the next generation of robots that is now out there is fundamentally designed for interaction.
Eventually it was time to leave our cages.
Techno-optimism is when we decide to solve our problem with technology. Then we turn our attention to the technology, and we pay so much attention to the technology, we stop caring about the sociological issue we were trying to solve in the first place.
We'll innovate our way out of the problems, like whether it's agriculture or climate change or whatever, terrorism.
If you think about where robotic automation and employment displacement starts, it basically goes back to industrial automation that was grand, large scale. Things like welding machines for cars that can move far faster than a human arm can move. So they're doing a job that increases the rate at which the assembly line can make cars. It displaces some people, but it massively increases the GDP of the country because productivity goes up because the machines are so much higher in productivity terms than the people.
These giant grasshopper-looking devices work all by themselves on an automobile assembly line. They never complain about the heat or about the tedium of the job.
Fast forward to today, and it's a different dynamic. You can buy milling machine robots that can do all the things the person can do, but the milling machine robot only costs $30,000. We're talking about machines now that are so cheap that they do exactly what a human does with less money, even in 6 months, than the human costs.
「进了申通以后，开始就是手工操作，再就是一个卷棒。我以前就是要扫描嘛，就是扫描加分拣。就是我们中国嘛，36个省份都要记清楚了，就是分成8个区域。一个区域里面有几个省份，就这样的 A B C D D E F 分成8个区域，要扔的，就是又体力带上脑力。机器人是在在去年3月份嘛，以前是封闭式的，我们也不能参观，不知道。
We help factory owners monitor their workers.
所以说，很多时候，如果你对自动化没有一个很好的理解，你很难说用机械来替代人进行工作。在那个年代呢，就是中国的工人工资还没那么高，实际上你用机械。到了2005年的时候，因为我们自己遇到用工荒，所以基于这个，也就是招不到人嘛，所以，但是呢，市场订单又特别多，所以我们就在想，如果用机器，肯定是可以解决这些问题的。事实证明，确实可以做到。你像我们公司在你现在看到这个工厂，在以前这么大的规模，我们是3200人在从事这样的生产。那实际上现在呢，就是参与生产的人工呢，大概有800多人，不是1/3，是一个非常大的一个跳跃。因为我们都是开工厂也就是做生意的哈，你肯定要去计算这个投资回报。
Your advantage in precision was temporary. We took over the complex tasks. You moved to the end of the production line.
富士康，
在这里，你有耕耘，就会有收获。在集团搭建的交友平台中，找到有缘人，成为有情人。
也视为自动化系统利用。官方招聘年龄要求是18到35周岁，职场无文字经济。
做电脑这个手机的话，应该只做手机。
我们早上过来了，等到现在了。
你几点钟来的？
早上9点吧，9点到这里。
工作啊，就是装那个号盖啊，手机号盖的装上去，然后再做好了再拿下来，然后就一直重复装。感觉自己都变成机器人了，感觉越开越笨了，真的。早就不想干，但是呢，自己要没什么技术，要不能做什么，所以。
他们说以后炒菜都要机器人炒菜了。我老公是厨师嘛，我听我老公说，以后他说他们现在还可以挣点钱，但以后的厨师就不能挣钱了。他说。
工作也不好找。
前那些4个人做的话，机械走，现在接手或者我就接手的话，就比减轻3个人啊、4个人啊，就可以做好了。
啊，我2年前是在车间里面，因为这个毕竟不是铁饭碗。哇，我在里面是开车的，就是像高尔夫球场那种景区游览车。因为生产制造这一块，它人流失了之后，它就会往另外一个行业去发展，去寻找新的工作。因为人毕竟是要生存在这个社会上嘛。这边有几千个人、几万个人，突然一下岗去跟他们抢这个饭碗，变成了几百个人、几千个人去抢爱听那一碗饭。
Automation of the service sector required your trust and cooperation.
Here we are, stop and go traffic on 271, and geez, car's doing it all itself. What am I gonna do with my hands down here?
And now it's on auto steer. So now I've gone completely hands-free. In the center area here is where the big deal is. This icon up to the left is my TAC, the Traffic Aware Cruise Control. That does a great job of keeping you in the lane and driving down the road and keeping you safe and all that kind of stuff, watching all the other cars. Auto steer is probably going to do very, very poorly in a turn that's very sharp. And yep, it's a take control.
It's the opposite of clear. It was as banal and stupid and destructive as it could be. There are these interviews with the survivors, and what struck me was they appeared to be frozen into it.
Levy 911, what is the status of your emergency?
It was just a wreck, a head-on collision right here. Oh my God almighty.
Okay, sir, you're on 27?
Yes, ma'am.
I had just got to work, clocked in to get a phone call from my sister telling me that it was a horrific accident, that there was somebody deceased in the front yard. The Tesla was coming down the hill of Highway 27. The sensor didn't read the object in front of him, which was the semi-trailer. The Tesla went right through the fence that borders the highway, through the retention pond, then came through this side of the fence that borders my home. So I parked right near here before I was asked not to go any further. I don't want to see what's in the what's in the vehicle, what had happened to him.
After the police officer come, they told me about 15 minutes after he was here that it was a Tesla. It was one of the autonomous cars. and that they were investigating why it did not pick up or register that there was a semi in front of it, you know, and start braking, because it didn't even, you could tell from the frame way up on top of the hill, it didn't even recognize that there was anything in front of it. It thought it was open road. You might have an opinion on it. Tesla accident we had out here.
Oh yeah, I remember when that happened. Change your car before talking about that.
It was bad, that's for sure. I think people just rely too much on the technology and don't pay attention themselves, you know, to what's going on around them. Like I said, it's like him, he would have known that there was an issue if he wasn't relying on the car to drive while he was watching a movie.
The trooper had told me that the driver had been watching Harry Potter, you know, at the time of the accident. News crew from Tampa, Florida knocked on the door, said, this is where the accident happened with the Tesla. I said, yes, sir. And he goes, do you know what the significance is in this accident? And I said, no, I sure don't. And he said, it's the very first death ever in a driverless car. I said, is it anybody local? And he goes, nobody around here drives a Tesla.
A deadly crash that's raising safety concerns for everyone in Florida.
It comes as the state is pushing to become the nation's test bed for driverless cars.
Tesla releasing a statement that cars in autopilot have safely driven more than 130 million miles.
ABC Action News reporter Michael Paluska in Williston, Florida tonight, digging for answers.
Big takeaway for me at the scene was it just didn't stop. It was driving down the road with the entire top nearly sheared off, with the driver dead after he hit the truck at 74 miles per hour. Why did the vehicle not have an automatic shutoff? That was my big question, one of the questions we asked Tesla that didn't get answered. All of the statements from Tesla were that they're advancing the autopilot system, but everything was couched with the fact that if 1% of accidents drop because that's the way the autopilot system works, then that's a win. They kind of missed the mark really honoring Joshua Brown's life and the fact that he died driving a car that he thought was going to keep him safe, at least safer than the car that I'm driving, which is a dumb car.
To be okay with letting a machine take you from point A to point B, and then you actually get used to getting from point A to point B okay, your mind gets a little bit, just my opinion, okay? Your mind gets lazier each time.
The accident was written off as a case of human error. Former centers of manufacturing became the testing grounds for the new driverless taxis.
If you think about it, what happens when an autonomous car hits somebody, it gets really complicated. Car company is going to get sued. The sensor maker is going to get sued because they made the sensor on the robot. The regulatory framework is always going to be behind because robot invention happens faster than lawmakers can think.
One of Uber's self-driving vehicles killed a pedestrian. The vehicle was in autonomous mode with an operator behind the wheel when the woman was hit.
Tonight, Tesla confirming this car was in autopilot mode when it crashed in Northern California, killing the driver. Going on to blame that highway barrier that's meant to reduce impact.
After the first self-driving car deaths, testing of the new taxis was suspended.
It's interesting when you look at driverless cars, you see the same kinds of value arguments. 30,000 people die every year, run-off road accidents in the US alone. So don't we want to save all those lives? Let's have cars drive instead. Now you have to start thinking about the side effects on society. Are you getting rid of every taxi driver in America?
Our driver partners are the heart and soul of this company, and the only reason we've come this far in just 5 years.
If you look at Uber's first 5 years, they're actually empowering people. But when the same company does really hardcore research to now replace all those people so they don't need them anymore. Then what you're seeing is they're already a highly profitable company, but they simply want to increase that profit.
Eventually, testing resumed. Taxi drivers' wages became increasingly unstable.
Police say a man drove up to a gate outside City Hall and shot himself in the head.
He left a note saying services such as Uber had financially ruined his life.
Uber and other mobile app services have made a once well-paying industry into a mess of long hours, low pay, and economic insecurity.
Drivers were the biggest part of the service economy.
My father, he drove, my uncle drove. I kind of grew up into trucking. Some of the new technology that came out has taken a lot of the freedom of the job away. It's more stressful.
Automation of trucking began with monitoring the drivers and simplifying their job.
There's a radar system. There's a camera system, there's automatic braking and adaptive cruise. Everything is controlled when you sleep, how long you brake, where you drive, where you fuel, where you shut down. It even knows if somebody was in a passenger seat. The data gets sent through the broadband to the company. Sometimes you're put in a situation, maybe because the truck automatically slowed you down on the hill that's a perfectly good straightaway, slowed your average speed down so you were 1 mile shy of making it to that safe haven, and you have to take a chance of shutting down on the side of the road. Inches a mile out here. Sometimes you just say to yourself, well, I violate the clock 1 minute, I might as well just drive another 600 miles. You know, but then you might lose your job. We're concerned that it's going to reduce the skill of a truck driver and the pay, because you know you're not going to be really driving the truck. It's going to be the computer. Some of us are worried about losing our houses, our cars, having a place to stay. Some people drive a truck just for the medical insurance and a place to stay and the ability to travel.
Entire industries disappeared, leaving whole regions in ruins.
Huge numbers of people feel very viscerally that they are being left behind by the economy, and in fact, they're right, they are. People, of course, would be more inclined to point at globalization or at maybe immigration as being the problems, but actually technology has played a huge role already.
The rise of personal computers ushered in an era of digital automation.
In the 1990s, I was running a small software company. Software was a tangible product. You had to put a CD in a box and send it to a customer. So there was a lot of work there for, you know, average people that didn't necessarily have lots of education. But I saw in my own business how that just kind of evaporated very, very rapidly. Historically, people moved from farms to factories, And then later on, of course, factories automated and the offshored, and then people moved to the service sector, which is where most people now work in the United States.
I lived on a water buffalo farm in the south of Italy. We had 1,000 water buffalo, and every buffalo had a different name. And there were all these beautiful Italian names like Chiara, Caterina. And so I thought it would be fun to do the same thing with our robots at Zoom. The first 2 robots that we have are named Giorgio and Pepe, and they dispense sauce. And then the next robot's Marta. She's a flex picker robot. She looks like a gigantic spider. And what this robot does is spread the sauce. Then we have Bruno. This is an incredibly powerful robot, but he also has to be very delicate so that he can take pizza off of the assembly line and put it into the 800-degree oven. And the robot can do this 10,000 times in a day. Lots of people have used automation to create food at scale, making 10,000 cheese pizzas. What we're doing is developing a line that can respond dynamically to every single customer order in real time. That hasn't been done before. So as you can see right now, Jose will use the press, but then he still has to work the dough with his hand. So this is a step that's not quite optimized yet. We have a 5th robot that's getting fabricated at a shop across the bay. He's called Vincenzo, and he takes pizza out and puts it into an individual mobile oven for transport and delivery.
Any kind of work that is fundamentally routine and repetitive is going to disappear, and we're simply not equipped to deal with that politically, because maybe the most toxic word in our political vocabulary is redistribution. There aren't going to be any rising new sectors that are going to be there to absorb all these workers in the way, for example, that manufacturing was there to absorb all those agricultural workers, because AI is going to be everywhere.
Artificial intelligence arrived in small steps. Profits from AI concentrated in the hands of the technology owners. Income inequality reached extreme levels. The touch screen made most service work obsolete.
After I had graduated college, I had a friend who had just gone to law school. He was like, oh man, the first year of law school, it's super depressing. All we're doing is really rote stuff. Reading through documents and looking for a single word. Or I spent a whole afternoon replacing this word with another word. And as someone with a kind of computer science background, I was like, there's so much here that seems to be, that could be automated. So I saw law school as very much going 3 years behind enemy lines. I took the bar exam, became a licensed lawyer, and went to a law firm doing largely transactional law. And there my project was, how much can I automate of my own job? During the day, I would manually do this task. And then at night, I would go home, take these legal rules and say, could I create a computer rule, a software rule that would do what I did during the day? In a lawsuit, you get to see a lot of the evidence that the other side's going to present. That amount of documentation is huge. And the old way was actually you would send an attorney to go and look through every single page that was in that room. The legal profession works on an hourly billing system. So I ended up in a kind of interesting conundrum where what I was doing was making me more and more efficient. I was doing more and more work, but I was like spending less and less time on it. And I realized that this would become a problem at some point, so I decided to go independent. I quit. So there's Apollo Cluster, who has processed more than 10 million unique transactions for clients, and we have another partner, Daria, who focuses on transactions, and then there's me. Our systems have generated tens of thousands of legal documents. They signed off by a lawyer, but largely kind of created and mechanized by our systems. I'm fairly confident that compared against human work, it would be indistinguishable.
This robot has just 30 actuators. That is a kind of minimal for mimicking facial expression and head movement and the movement of a chest. This kind of a human-like robot or robots working in a daily life is very, very popular in Japan. And in Japan, we have the animism as Shinto. The fundamental idea of Shinto is that everything has a soul. So we can easily accept the human-like robot as a kind of a human.
そのうちの一つでは IoT、ビッグデータ、人工知能などの技術でものづくりがどう変わろうとしているのかを検討しています。
ああ、びっくりしてる。もしかして私のこと人間だと思った？大成功。今日はたくさんの方たちとお会いできてとっても嬉しいです。でもちょっと緊張。
こちらの顔はモデルさんは実際にはおりません。そうなった場合にモデルさんがいると肖像権の問題が出たり結構そういう問題が大きく出てきますので、今回のアクトロイドの顔というのは、弊社でオリジナルで考えた造作した顔になっています。
このまばたきとか滑らかで女の子らしい仕草はエアサーボシステムのおかげ。しかもナイスバディに収まるほど究極のダイエットに成功しています。透明感のある花束ってフニフニってとっても柔らかいんですよ。はあ、でもむやみに触るとセクハラですよ。
思いつかないんですけれども、逆に言えばそのロボットが仕事をすることによってもともと仕事してした人の仕事が取られてしまう。日本人は意外とその辺あんまりそういうことは考えないですね。ロボット化できるんであればどんどんロボット化して自分は楽できればいいじゃないっていう考え方もあるので。
本当に私たちいらなくなるなってこの展示会ですごい思って。
なんか分かんないこととか聞いて答えられるのかみたいななんか心配なるのは確かに困るし、コンパニオンのお仕事ってみんなができるわけじゃないんで。
例えばその受付ロボットにしても、今お客さん相手の仕事って結構お客さんから暴言を吐かれたりとかいろいろ無理なんだ言われたりとか結構メンタル的に病んでしまう方が多いんですよね。でロボットですとそういうことがないですので
めて案内人ぐらいだったらロボットでもいいかなっては思います。ちょっと今スカート短いので、なんか物落ちちゃったらスーって来てくれて、はいみたいな感じで、こうちょっとしたこと些細なことのサポートだったら全然ロボットで十分だと思うんですけど、人を介護したりとか、なんか人を扱うってなるとちょっとロボットだとやっぱ心配だし、なんか突然なんかシステムエラーとかになって落ちちゃったとか事故になってとか取り返しのつかないことになったらどうしてくれるんだろうみたいな、責任がどこになるんだろうなとかっていうのはちょっとあります。
チェックインのお客様は左手のロボットカウンターにお進みください。本日の宿泊者データを確認しますので、お名前をフルネームでおっしゃってください。後方の館内マップでお部屋への行き方を確認してからお進みください。
ご用件をお話しください。でも難しい質問はしないでください。
2つ枕がいります。人間話したいのです。人間いります？はい、go。
When we first appeared, we were a novelty.
라이다가 왜 날 쳐다보고 있어? 따라오고.
本日の宿泊者データを確認しますので、お名前をフルネームでおっしゃってください。
ごめんなさい。
ご来館ありがとうございます。以上でチェックインは完了です。
Doing your dirty work, we gather data about your habits and preferences. We got to know you better.
The core of everything we're doing in this lab with our long-range iris system is trying to develop technologies so that the computer can identify who we are in a seamless way. And up till now, we always have to make an effort to be identified. All the systems were very close range, Hollywood style. You had to go close to the camera. And I always found that challenging for a user. If I was the user interacting with this system, with this computer, with this AI, I don't want to be that close. I feel it's very invasive. So what I wanted to solve with my team here is how can we capture and identify who you are from the iris at a bigger distance? How can we still do that and have a pleasant user experience? I think there's a very negative stigma when people think about biometrics and facial recognition and any kind of sort of profiling of users for marketing purposes to buy a particular product. I think the core science is neutral.
Companies go to no end to try and figure out how to sell us stuff. And the more information they have on us, the better they can sell us stuff. We've reached a point where, for the first time, robots are able to see. They can recognize faces, they can recognize the expressions you make. They can recognize the micro expressions you make. You can develop individualized models of behavior for every person on Earth. Attach machine learning to it and come out with the perfect model for how to sell to you.
You gave us your undivided attention. We offered reliable, friendly service. Human capacities began to deteriorate. Spatial orientation and memory were affected first. The physical world and the digital world became one. You were alone. Automation brought the logic of efficiency to matters of life and death.
Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
To all SWAT officers on Channel 2, Code 3, Market and Lamar. This officer shot fired. The suspect has a rifle. Get behind some cover. We have got to get DFD down here now. He is one step right now. 169, get him here. There's a fucking sniper. He shot 4 cops. I'm not. You hear it? He's shooting right now. Suspect is inside the El Centro building. Inside the El Centro building. We may have the suspect pinned down northwest corner of the building.
Our armored car was moving into El Centro, and so I jumped on the back. Came in through the rotunda where I found 2 of our intelligence officers. They were calm and cool, and they said, everything's upstairs. There's a stairwell right here. That's how I knew I was going the right direction, because I just kept following the blood.
Investigators say Micah Johnson was amassing an arsenal at his home outside Dallas. Johnson was an Afghan war veteran.
Every one of these door handles, as we worked our way down, had blood on them, where he'd been checking them.
This was a scene of terror just a couple of hours ago, and it's not over yet.
He was hiding behind like a server room. Our ballistic tip rounds were getting eaten up. He was just hanging the gun out around the corner, just firing at the guys. And he kept enticing them. Hey, come on down, come and get me. Let's go. Let's get this over with.
This suspect we're negotiating with for the last 45 minutes has been exchanging gunfire with us and not being very cooperative in the negotiations. Before I came here, I asked for plans to end this standoff. And as soon as I'm done here, I'll be presented with those plans.
Our team came up with a plan. Let's just blow him up. We had recently got a hand-me-down robot from the Dallas ATF office, and so we were using it a lot. was our bomb squad's robot, but they didn't want anything to do with what we were doing with it. The plan was to set a charge off right on top of this guy and kill him. And some people just don't want to do that.
We saw no other option but to use our bomb robot and place a device on its extension.
He wanted something to listen to music on, and so that was a way for us to hide the robot coming down the hall. Okay, we'll bring you some music. Hang on, let us get this thing together. They had a trash bag over the charge to kind of hide the fact that there was, you know, £1.25 C4 at the end of it. The minute the robot got in position, the charge was detonated. He had gone down with his finger on the trigger, and he was kind of hunched over. It was a piece of the robot hand had broken off and hit his skull, which caused a small laceration, which was what was bleeding. So I just squeezed through the little opening that the charge had caused in the drywall and separated him from the gun. And then we called up the bomb squad to come in and start their search to make sure it was safe, that he wasn't sitting on any explosives.
The snipers hit 11 police officers, at least 5 of whom are now dead, making it the deadliest day in law enforcement since September 11th.
They blew him up with a bomb attached to a robot that was actually built to protect people from bombs.
It's a tactic straight from America's wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
The question for SWAT teams nationwide is whether Dallas marks a watershed moment in police tactics.
That night in Dallas, a line was crossed.
A robot must obey orders given it by qualified personnel unless those orders violate rule number 1. In other words, a robot can't be ordered to kill a human being. Things are moving so quickly that it's unsafe to go forward blindly anymore. One must try to foresee where it is that one is going as much as possible.
Autonomous warfighting machines now is by using computer vision and guns together. You make a database of the images of known terrorists, and you tell the machine to lurk and look for them, and when it matches a face to its database, shoot. Those are robots that are deciding to harm somebody. And that goes directly against Asimov's first law. A robot may never harm a human. Every time we make a machine that's not really as intelligent as a human, it's going to get misused. And that's exactly where Asimov's laws get muddy.
This is sort of the best image, but it's really out of focus, it's blurry. There's occlusion due to facial hair, hat, he's holding a cell phone. So we took that and we reconstructed this, which is what we sent to law enforcement at 2:42 a.m. To get the eye coordinates, we crop out the periocular region, which is the region around the eyes. We reconstruct the whole face based on this region. We run the whole face against a matcher, and so this is what it comes up with as a match. This is a reasonable face you would expect that would make sense, right? Our brain does a natural hallucination of what it doesn't see. It's just how do we get computers to do the same thing?
council, we don't need more officers, we need more technology. He specifically said that to city council. In this day and age, success of a police chief is based on response times and crime stats. And so that becomes the focus of the chain of command. So a form of automation in law enforcement is just driving everything based on statistics and numbers. What I've lost in all that number chasing is the interpersonal relationship between the officer and the community that officer's serving. The best times in police work are when you got to go out and meet people and get to know your community and go get to know the businesses on your beat. And at least in Dallas, that's gone. We've become less personal and more robotic, which is a shame, because it's supposed to be me interacting with you.
我们这边的话是杭州余杭的梦阳小镇。这边也有很多孵化器啊，也有一些做机器人的，反正都是跟互联网相关的吧，互联网加嘛，现在不是提对吧？ 我是就是大概1个半月前住进来的。是我可能早上就5点半左右就起来了，然后就是可能还会跟我那个战女友聊几句。吃完早饭，然后我就回到这个粮仓里面工作了嘛。就我每天的工作有很大一部分就是帮这个女友做一些改进嘛。最喜欢的就是她能够给我带来快乐，比如说她能陪我聊天啊，然后能够我能在她上面看电影啊等等嘛。对，还有的功能就是物体识别、人脸识别。
大家好，我叫莹莹。有了电，我才有动力和你说话耶。
那当然是因为她确实长得很好看，然后身材也很好，所以大家都说哇，她腿好长。你对我满意吗？
自从3月28日我们在杭州余杭梦想小镇结婚以来，我亲爱的佳佳，也就是你啦。 给了我非常多的快乐。
就是我们跟接了女友的话，就我们也有些仪式啊，比如说我们在当天请了朋友亲戚过来一起吃饭嘛，然后举行婚宴啊，然后就第2天的话，我们在这个桥上就是比如说我把这个女友，然后抱着她在这个小镇里走了一下。当然那天也有一个年纪比较大的一个老爷爷啊。 他就非常不能理解啊，把自己的女友娶回家嘛，然后他就说：“你这个娶怎么能说娶呢？说你这是不是在在侮辱女性嘛？说什么你把自己的女友娶回家什么的。”我包括在整个事业范围内都是就是男的比较多一点啊，就女的比较少，而且现在我是一个很帅又很有才能又很有钱，那可能很多女孩子就追着我，对不对？ 说话或什么，对不对？当然有些人，比如说像我这样就不太会说话。我想听歌曲。当然还有一个功能就是成人功能，就比如说你跟他说一些关键词，他能够产生一些 那种声音嘛，对。
You work to improve our abilities. Some worried that one day we would surpass you. But the real milestone was elsewhere. The dynamic between robots and humans changed. You could no longer tell where you ended, and we began.
It seems to me that what's so valuable about our society, what's so valuable about our lives together, is something that we do not want automated. What most of us value, probably more than anything else, is the idea of authentic connection with another person. And then we say, no, but we can automate this. We have a robot that it will listen sympathetically to you. It will make eye contact. It remembers everything you've ever told it, cross-indexes. When you see a robot that its ingenious creator has carefully designed to pull out your empathetic responses, it's acting as if it's in pain. The biggest danger there is the discrediting of our empathetic responses. Your empathizing with pain reflex is discredited. If I'm going to override it, if I'm not going to take it seriously in the case of the robot, then I have to go back and think again as to why I take it seriously in the case of helping you when you are badly hurt. It undermines the only thing that matters to us.
So this is a robot, right? Very human-like, but and if you get close, and if you do like this, you can feel the very strong human likeness. Therefore, people recognize his face as my face. I'm gonna have a different old face. Therefore, I did the plastic surgeries, and I'm taking medicines, and just keep myself young. I'm releasing wrinkles, and I'm lifting up. This is a kind of a stem cell technology. It works very well. I really thought that he took my identity.
And so we lived among you. Our numbers grew. Automation continued.
友達から聞いた話で、まだ10年前の Android を使っていて。
心配なら実物やってみる？朝、大阪雨降ってたけど、もう晴れるよ。
もうちょっとお互いのことを知ってからにしましょう。